This $1,700 gaming PC build is the sweet spot for mid to high range performance in 2025. That's still expensive, but I spent the money on performance, not fluff. That means no useless 1000-watt power supplies, no ultra-low latency RAM, and no $300 motherboard with features you don't need. So if you're looking for mid to high range performance and you want to maximize your dollar spend, a build like this might be for you. First up, we've got the AMD Ryzen 9 9900X. This is a 12-core, 24-thread processor, and it is just a beast. This one has a TDP of 120 watts, so it's going to get hot. To cool it, we have the iQOO Link Titan 360. This is an all-in-one water cooler loop with a 360mm radiator. It also has an LCD screen on the block which shows you the temperature in real time. Next up, we have a Gigabyte GeForce RTX 5070. This is what probably gives the PC the upper mid to high end classification. For the 5000 series, this is an upper mid-range GPU. If you're looking for solid performance but you don't care about 4K and insane refresh rates, this is going to be perfect. It supports ray tracing, you've got DLSS 4 for AI upscaling, and a whole heap of other features. It's just a great card. We've also got 32GB of Crucial Pro memory. And this is where I'll make my first point about not buying things you don't need. The person I'm building this computer for decided they wanted 32GB of memory. And so what did I do? I searched for 32GB of DDR5 RAM in a set of two 16GB sticks. And then I filtered by lowest price. Yeah, I know, that's going to annoy people, but do you think in your games you're really going to notice the difference between this, a $90 set of RAM, and the exact same capacity RAM from the same brand for $150, $200? No, you're not. Of course, if you buy the more expensive RAM, it's going to have slightly nicer specs, but the capacity is the same. RAM is temporary storage. It's already blazing fast. Any performance uplift from buying the most expensive set of RAM with the same capacity, you're not even going to notice. This is a thermal take power supply. It's 750 watts. 80 plus gold rated. This was about $85, it's fully modular, and the wattage is more than enough for this machine. The TDP of the CPU is 120 watts, the graphics card is about 250 watts, and that leaves you a lot of headroom. You don't need to be spending double, triple, quadruple the price on a power supply just because someone on Reddit tells you to. The third way I've maximized performance and spent the money where it counts is on the motherboard. This was $115. It's the Gigabyte B650M Gaming Plus. So what do we get for our money? Well, it supports the Ryzen chip, the DDR5 RAM. You've got an NVMe SSD slot for this guy. It's got Wi-Fi, and what else do you need? Seriously, I'm asking. This is one of the cheapest motherboards I could find that supported this hardware, and Gigabyte's a well-known, reliable brand. And so I'm really pleased that we've saved money on those three things because it's allowed us to maximize performance with the CPU and GPU. So let's get started with the build, but make sure to stick around to the end because we'll run a few benchmarks and figure out what can you actually get for this money when you go into planning your build with performance in mind. This is going to be such a cool build. Here's a little teaser, but first let's check out Justway, this video's sponsor. If you've got a project and need something bespoke like CNC machining, sheet metal, 3D printing, injection molding, or urethane casting, Justway have you covered. You can use your own designs or someone else's, and once you've uploaded your files you'll get an instant quote so you know exactly where you stand for your project. It's quick and it's pretty affordable. Follow the link in the description to see what's possible for your project. And thanks to Justway for sponsoring this video. So I've set the components aside for a second, and let's have a look at what case we're going to be using on this build. And in keeping with performance over fluff, this case was about $50. This case does everything we need, and it still looks great. I can't wait to get in here. These parts have been sitting on my table for 3 days now. Alright, here we have it. And I know white isn't everyone's colour for gaming PC builds, but you've got to admit it looks really clean. We've got two intake fans at the front, a spot for the 360mm radiator at the top, an exhaust fan at the back, and then the power supply is going to be hidden under this part here. On the front there you've got the power button, reset button, 3.5mm input, output, two USB 3s, and you've got this nice wood grain effect on the front here as well. So we might set this aside for a second and have a look at the motherboard. Here is the B650M chipset Gigabyte Gaming Plus Wi-Fi motherboard, and there it is. In the box we've also got the I/O shield, Wi-Fi antennas, one SATA cable, and of course the warranty and the manual there as well. What I like to do when building a computer is start with the motherboard, and if we get it out of the anti-static bag, this looks great. Remember, this is one of the cheapest motherboards I could find that supported our hardware, but it still has 4 RAM slots, 2 M.2 slots, USB 3 and USB-C support. It's got this nice shield over the I/O here, and if you care about looks, it's fine. Totally unoffensive. So what I might do next is get the RAM in there. And 32GB really is a sweet spot for gaming. 16GB tends to be slightly too little, and any more really than 32 is getting into enthusiast level. So the motherboard actually labels the RAM slots, and it's telling us that this one here that I'm opening now is the first slot. So we've got DDR5A1, DDR5A2, and then B1, B2, and that's for dual channel mode. So we'll put the RAM slots in A2 and B2, and we'll take the first stick and install in A2. That's that one. There we go, that's the RAM installed. The next thing I might do is install the storage. So I'll remove the screw on this heatsink here and access our first M.2 slot. For this machine, the main drive is going to be a Western Digital green 1TB NVMe. This is the cheapest 1TB drive I could find, and it's still blazing fast. And we'll carefully install into the M.2 slot. There we go, that's in. And we can also remove this bit of plastic here. That way we get the thermal pad to make contact with the SSD and dissipate heat through this heatsink. So just double check that that's in properly. It is. And then we can slot that in here. There we go, painless. This machine is also going to have another SATA SSD and SATA hard drive installed, but we'll get to that later. The next thing to do is get the CPU installed. We'll pull back the arm there, pop off the little bit of plastic that protects the pins, and now we're ready for our CPU. This Ryzen 9 is going to be a beast for years to come. And inside we have the Ryzen 9, a sticker for the case. How cool is the design on the chip there? I love it. I'm going to tilt the motherboard to me so I can actually see what I'm doing. You might be able to see on the motherboard where the CPU goes, there's a little triangle in the corner. It matches up with the little triangle on the CPU itself. We'll gently lift it out, making sure not to touch anything on the back, and we will very gently drop it into place. No force is required here. It just drops right in. And there we go. That's the CPU installed. It doesn't wiggle. That really is it. So we will replace the ARM. That's the CPU installed. Nice satisfying peel here. And it took the filter with it. So we'll remove the glass panel here very carefully. And we may as well take the back panel off as well. I can't get over how well this case is built, given that, again, it's one of the budget options. It just does everything we need and nothing more. After I took the back panel off, I've had one of my questions answered. These fans originally looked like they were exhausting out of the case, which would have made no sense at all. But we can see here they're labelled reverse. So in the case, we've got a couple of cable ties there, that's nice. We've got some screws and a few more cable ties. And then the front panel I/O cables here. The next step I usually take in a build like this is to put the radiator in. As I mentioned before, we've got this beautiful Corsair 360mm setup here. It's an all-in-one liquid cooler, so it should be very low maintenance, and it should help keep the temperatures of that Ryzen 9 at bay. Obviously we've gone with white to match the case. So this is the radiator part in here that go to the water block. This is a system hub, they call it, and it controls the cooling setup. The next thing we're going to do is attach these. They're called link cables. So since we're mounting it this way in the case, I'll set it up so that we route out the back. These link cables daisy chain Corsair fans that use the same system. For the radiator fans, we'll just use the one link cable since we've got nothing else to daisy chain. And we're going to mount it this way in the system. There are 12 screws holding this in place, so nice and secure at the top there. So while we're doing this, the idea behind mounting on the top here is one, because it's the only place it can go in this case, but also it acts as an exhaust. So these fans pull in air, these three and this one on the back will exhaust air. That's called a push-pull configuration. Here's the motherboard. The I/O shield just pops into this hole here. So now we can line up the motherboard with the I/O shield and the little standoffs on the case. And herein lies my first mistake of the build. I can't access the top screws anymore because I put the radiator on. So off it comes. Now we can line up the motherboard with the standoffs and the I/O shield. Thankfully, we can still access these cutouts up here. We'll need that to install the CPU power connector. Cool, the motherboard is all screwed in. So, before I make that same mistake again with installing the radiator too early, let's thread the CPU power cable. This is our Thermaltake Tough Power GT 750 watt power supply. As I said before, it's 80 plus gold rated, so fairly efficient. Better than bronze, basically. It's fully modular, which means cable management will be slightly easier. It all feels really premium. So out of this fancy Thermaltake bag here, we got the CPU cable. So it's this little black connector here, and I can then route that out the same hole in the back there. Okay, now that I've done that, it is time to reinstall the radiator. Okay, so this is looking pretty good now. It's almost like it's a computer. So the idea is to get the cooler block on like so. So we will need to change over the brackets. It comes shipped with Intel brackets, but we do have these AMD brackets as well. This cooler block has pre-applied thermal paste, but if you take a look at the spread pattern, it is huge. And that's not really ideal for the little MCM die, which we've got on the 9900X. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this paste, clean it with some isopropyl wipes, and then reapply the right amount of thermal paste straight to the CPU die. And it just so happens that I have some Noctua paste here. So I'll start by gently removing the paste. Now we'll use a cleaning wipe to get rid of that residue, because we want proper thermal conductivity. That's looking very clean now. We also need to remove the included standoffs here, because our cooler doesn't use clips. And there we go, those are off now. And that means we can go ahead and install the cooler once we've pasted the CPU. I'm about to apply this thermal paste, and if you think I'm doing it wrong, good, go and leave me an angry comment. So we'll put a small drop in the center of the die there, no more than that. There we go. And now it's time to install the cooler block. And then very carefully, like so, get these wires out of the way, and we'll line it up with those screws on the motherboard. I like to do opposite corners, just so we're not putting too much pressure on one side. And that's it. Now I'll take the back off again and we'll do a bit of cable management. We've got this jungle of cables. Okay, so quite a bit of time has passed. I've been doing a lot of cable management here. So what we have now is the power supply installed, CPU power hooked up, ATX power hooked up. I've figured out the fan and RGB connectors. We've installed the Corsair IQ system and wired all that up, including the link connectors that go to the fans on the radiator, the CPU block. We've got PCI power going into there, USB, which splits out, and then the speed cable, which goes to the CPU fan header on the motherboard. So that's a bit of spaghetti for now. Next step is we're going to install the graphics card. I love the product boxes for these things. It tells you about the thermal design, the chip design, and then all the features there. Panning down to the Gigabyte box. Let's open her up. And here we have it, the GPU itself. We've also got the PCI power splitter. Now that is a graphics card. Check it out. So for this setup to work, we'll need a total of 3 PCIe cables. One's powering the little Corsair IQ box, and then we're going to use the Gigabyte graphics card splitter and use 2 separate cables from the power supply. We're specifically not daisy chaining these. Sorry the camera angle's not so good, you'll just have to deal with it. Now we can install the graphics card very, very carefully. There it is, installed. Okay, now we can screw it onto the case. So we'll lift it up slightly. All right, there we go. And we'll close the little door thingy. It's a shame Gigabyte didn't make this cable here longer because it just looks a bit cluttered. It would be nice if these were behind the motherboard, but not much we can do about that. So we're basically ready. What I'm gonna do now is clean up the house a bit because it is an absolute mess, and then start it up. So there we have it. The PC's ready to install Windows. That's all very boring and I'm sure you've seen it a million times, so I will come back to you once Windows is installed and some benchmarks ready to run. So here we are running Windows 11 Pro. I normally wouldn't install Windows on any PC, usually opting for Linux, but this machine isn't mine. The 5070 in this machine also doesn't like Linux. So if you do want a Linux gaming PC of similar spec, swap out the 5070 for a 4070 Super, or indeed an AMD graphics card. I spent a bit of time installing drivers from the Gigabyte website, activating Windows, and installing things like Steam and Discord. And then it was time to run some Geekbench. And holy moly does this thing scream. On the Geekbench 6 CPU test, this machine scored 3,332 for single core, and 18,379 for multi-core. I've never used a machine this powerful, so that was something to behold. I also ran the GPU OpenCL test, and we got a whopping 200,655. What that all means in the real world is a computer that can play anything you throw at it. Most modern titles will run with pretty awesome graphics settings with a high frame rate, and as titles start to demand more and more, we can look to the future with hope thanks to how solid the CPU and GPU are. And I think it just goes to show, yes, this machine was expensive at $1,700 US, but those dollars were, for the most part, spent on the processor and graphics card. In other words, raw power. And that's how I love to build PCs. No nonsense performance. But let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you think. Maybe you disagree with all this. In any case, let me know. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.